one of the things, right? Creativity is such a high aim of Odyssey of the Mind, which is such a great place to start. I think in industry, especially in space industry, what's worked in the past, is what you kind of want to use going forward. You don't want to you kind of want to test in a laboratory to make sure you have high confidence before you go out. But in one of the Odyssey of the Mind competitions, it was vehicle. I think it was a big vehicle competition. We wanted to make our own gears, and I think it was primarily driven out of a desire to be creative. But it resulted in us learning how to weld, the skill set that as middle schoolers none of us had, right? We were getting these big metal plates and these big fat bolts. And I think whoever wanted to, we had a team of 7, so maybe 4 or 5 of us were like, oh, I want to learn how to weld, because one of our teammates' neighbors had a shop, and I think she had an old stick welder. And so we all took turns practicing and learning the basics of it. And ultimately, I don't think I was the best one. So somebody else got to do the actual welding on the vehicle. But it was sort of a challenge to figure out what's a creative way that we can solve this problem. And part of that was learning a skill set that none of us had before. And that ultimately, just being a builder myself, led to a welding machine getting added to a Christmas list of mine at one point in time, and that becoming a skill that I developed in high school more. And one of our vehicles ultimately that ended up winning Vernac Fusca at World Finals had that welding component to it. It was a metal frame, and we welded a bicycle chassis and some cam arms anyway. So it ended up sort of resulting in that. And on a non-technical side, I think team dynamics was a challenge to is always a challenge, figuring out how to work in a team. I think is something that certainly in Odyssey of the Mind, but also in the rest of your career, if you are in a field that requires collaboration, you have to know how to use everybody's gifts and talents that they come to the team with in a way that benefits the team. We had a guy who was really good at violin, and figuring out a way to work that into our skit, right? I mean, we're a vehicle problem. Like, you don't have to have a violin, but it brought an element that the judges loved, and a sort of dynamic to our skit that was totally different than we're just going about this very technical task. So realizing that the different people have certain gifts and desires and talents that can benefit the whole team if they're sort of given the opportunity to voice those, and they get really passionate and motivated to do well with those.